All right, so we've got a game. This is the first game here. Incredible Bubachig versus 20 of July. This is the board 3 of Mizzou versus the board 2 of MIT, respectively. And let me make sure I'm following the last player. Let me make sure I'm putting that into the right chat. Okay, so I'm following all the players. It seems that there's an echo. We have my oh oh because I'm listening to myself. Probably. That or I have two. I don't know. Thanks for letting me know, though. I appreciate that. Ah, there we go. Okay, I got it. No, now I got it. All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, back to the game. I'm pretty sure that should solve that now. Okay, we have 3 of the games that have started. Here we've got a Sicilian defense from Antipov Mikhail. This is Mizzou's second board against MIT's third board. They just started. We're just waiting on one game from MIT's fourth board and Mizzou's top board. But that should be starting soon. These are Division 1 players. Mizzou's definitely our top seeded team, perhaps the favorite to win. So this is exciting to see their first match. And I'm sure the players are excited to start. They've been waiting for this probably for at least a couple months now. Our registration ended earlier this month, but we did extend our deadline from December. We waited for Pan Am's first. But yeah, here we go. This is MIT again versus Mizzou. MIT is the 8th team in Group A. If you guys want to see more about the league, you can check it out at collegiatechessleague.com, which is a new site that the Corporate Esports Association has helped build for us. But yeah, I'm just going to focus on the chess here. So, looks like white here has the center pretty much. We could try to trade this knight, double these pawns, but probably not going to be too damaging. Black has a bishop here. Both of these players are titled. Raja, this is the board 4 for Mizzou. As you can tell, if your fourth board is an international master, you've got a pretty good team. And this is the board 1 of MIT, who's a national master. So even in the same division, there's definitely a difference in strength. But like I said, MIT is the bottom team of the group. So each division is structured with 16 teams. And of those 16 teams, they're split into groups of 8. And it's a round robin. So each team from each group will play. This last move opens up the way for bishop here. So the rook simply gets out of this potential skewer. The queen develops, putting a little pressure on the knight, but not really. This is hitting the pawn that was doubled. So white did end up trading knights here, and this could be a potential weakness. The bishop just simply develops to defend. Potentially could have gone on the long diagonal. Yeah, what's up, Count Live? I see that they haven't started their game, so actually I can reach out to them. I think they might have like a 10 or 15-minute grace period. We'll see. Um Unfortunately, MIT I don't think has a representative on Discord, so the fastest I could reach out to them is through email. But good morning. This is pretty early for me. Thank you guys for the follows as well. I appreciate it. We'll be doing a lot more content in the as the season progresses. Let's look at we'll look at Antipov here. This is the board 2, I believe. It's their board 4, right? Yeah. Christian, do you know if the pairings page worked? Did the players click on the usernames and it's been working out so far? So, I mean, that looks good. Oh, we already have a result here. A resignation. Incredible Bubachik winning here. What happened here? So, bishop here, queen here with the fork. And after this move, what's... Oh, is the queen just trapped? Wow, okay. What, after a move like... Okay, well, that's an early result. Incredible Bubachik getting the first win of the season. They manually challenged. You didn't see any link to click. Did you check? Is the username not even... Okay. Well, that's at least good to know. Uh, I... Here. Let me send you the page. Okay. Well, I don't know where the MIT's fourth board is, but I have reached out to them. Kyle Goldrick, thank you. Welcome. Sorry if I'm not like paying too much attention to the commentary. Okay. All right, both players under 30 seconds on the clock here. Looks like Antipov is up some material. That is a fork of the rooks. But this rook could potentially... Okay. So trading off. Now Zemestiny is up a point. White taking advantage of this pinned F pawn. You can't take because then the rook falls and you're getting mated, actually. So there goes another pawn as well. Zemestiny here could have a potential upset. Okay, the queen's trying to infiltrate. I'm thinking we play here. No? Okay. The king is running for it. The rook was hanging. Both players now playing off of increment. This could be a very exciting finish. Black is somehow safe here. Okay, the queen's going after some loose pieces. The rook swings over, hitting this. And a sacrifice. I don't... Does this work? Wow. That rook could not have been taken. Otherwise, queen to h6 would force the bishop block with mate. Okay, so defending this pawn. Trying to go after this pawn. White has an outside pass pawn. Both players with 20 seconds. Defending. Pushing through. Pushing the pass pawn. So black is down a piece for a pawn, but they have a very active pieces, and this king is not very safe. But white now has the active queen and a very deep pass pawn. Okay, black with a very strong check. Rook here. Oh my goodness. Bishop block. Queen check. Lifting the king up. Winning the bishop back. But is this pawn going to be fast enough? There's no good check. White moves the queen up, hitting the rook, but the queen's defending it. Also defending the pawn. Also threatening a big check. So there's a check. The rook is going to fall. Another check first. Rook block. Why not just take the rook? Was this? I have no idea. Okay, queen check defending the rook. A pawn check. Another queen check. Another queen check. You're gonna keep checking. I mean, this pawn is very deep. Oh, queen here. No, that drops the rook. Okay. Can we take this? No, pushing through. Oh my god. I think black is winning. Push now. There's queen here. King here. No, here. Still go here. No, trading here. Oh my god. I think white just messed this up. Queen check allows the pawn to take with check. And now black has a queen and a pawn. 10 seconds left from Antipov, but he looks like he's got the better position. I mean, he's the one up a pawn, and he's got all the queen checks. So now, can we move the king to prepare the pawn push? He wants this check to force the queens off. So king here, and then here, and then here. You just can't go on the light squares or on the e file, because queen here comes with a check, forcing the queen off. Okay, queen here anyways, without check. But white's going to have to find a way to draw this. I don't think they can. It's Kush. You should be keeping track of the score for sure. Let me give Raja the point, speaking of which. So, Mizzou's fourth board taking down MIT's top board, which is a great start. Here, less than 10 seconds from Antipov. Gonna try to push this. There's gonna be a lot of checks. King has to move out of the way. No, gonna come this way to block with the queen. Oh, you have this block now. Yeah, there's no more good checks. This is game over. Man, Zemestiny. 2 seconds left on the clock. Okay, here's a check. Okay, I didn't see that one. King here now. The game continues. Only 4 seconds. You know, either player could flag in this situation. Yep, here. Queen check from behind. No, queen check here. Hide behind the pawn, maybe. Oh, here, and now the kings are facing off. Yeah, Zemestiny ran out of time on that one. Holy smokes, what a insane game. That was super close. Man, Antipov really had to fight for that one. But he gets the job done in the end. Okay, we've got Incredible Bubachik versus Norman Hu. Did I miss the third game? Or is this... Who did Incredible Bubachik won first, right? I believe he did. So, Mizzou off to a strong start, 3-0 on the first round. MIT still missing one of their players. Okay. All right, so this game is underway here. Both players fully developed, rooks connected. Both sides with the light square bishop. White has a slightly better center with the pawn duo, advancing the pawn duo, playing d5. This is actually a pawn gambit. If takes, you can take back. The problem is, does white want to play here and open up this diagonal? This is an interesting line. So black has to decide, do they want to take? Okay, decides not to take and close the center with e5. But now d5 is a connected pass pawn, so this will be a long-term advantage for white. Norman here immediately plays bishop b5. Definitely ahead in the clock, which can be very useful later on. Incredible Bubachik. He had the very quick win previously. Thinking here, using his clock, deciding how he wants to continue. There's pressure on the knight. It is defended. Rook to c2. I like it a lot. Very active. Getting on the second rank for the rook. Hitting the a2 pawn immediately. I feel like knight c5 is also a very logical move. Coming up, putting some pressure on the e4, the base point of the center pawn structure. Simply a4, just defending the pawn, defending the bishop, making sure all the pieces are held tight. Knight c5 could be a little awkward because it blocks the c file a little bit. This rook might get trapped. The bishop can move with the threat, but I think the rook should be fine. Okay, just getting behind the pawn, making sure the bishop doesn't go too far away, and potentially threatening a6, forcing the bishop to move, and then capturing the a pawn. So black just simply going after some weakness. Also now knight c5 comes with a tempo on the pawn as well. So white might consider trying to trade off rooks in one of two ways. They also might consider taking, and rook takes. This would potentially win the e pawn. Instead, rook to the open c file. Once this rook leaves, you've given up control over the c file. So Norman takes that. The knight does come in, attacking a4, and there goes the e pawn. So yeah, these pawns are definitely very strong in the center. This knight move, you are attacking a4, but you're giving up e5. So okay, bishop here, saying if you take, I'll take with the knight hitting your rook. And if you don't take, saying, well, my knight's defending that, I'm just going to grab this pawn. Well, your knight can't attack and defend at the same time, so you would be hanging a piece. So the bishop steps back, doesn't want to trade. So still attacking this a4 pawn. But white is up a pawn, so Norman playing a good game here and still has a decent time advantage. All right, this is like Norman's longest think of this game. After bishop c8, deciding what to do now. What's the best continuation? Is it possible to save this pawn? Well, like I said earlier, you could try rook a1. You could also play here. But those probably seem kind of passive. Okay, decides to go rook to d1, and black fires off immediately with h5. h5 taking control over g4. We did have this in control already, but now the knight just absolutely can't go to g4 in case black wanted to preserve the bishop. So knight comes back attacking b6 and also preparing the way for e5. And now we see the intention behind h5 to play h4 to hit this queen. So where does the queen go? She goes to e3, and now h3 hits hard, supported by the bishop. So if you take, you ruin your pawn structure. If you push through, this pawn's a thorn. And yeah, we see white fall with e5. So queen could come here with a checkmate threat. Now this pawn could push. You could defend with the bishop. You could also just simply push the pawn. This is what I'm expecting, at least. And it looks like once the queen moves, assuming white's not getting mated, white has a threat of taking on b6, which will hang the knight. So white is playing really well here. Bubachik, only 27 seconds. 25 now. e5 was definitely on the radar. So, yep, g3, defending mate, and now hitting the rook. So is the rook going to move? Yes, rook lift. Some pressure on the bishop, but okay, so black finally takes this pawn back, which also defends b6. Black wants to play b5, block off the bishop, and start advancing some pawns of their own. Okay, queen here with a fork of the pieces. Rook here, threatening mate, so definitely should take this. And then bishop takes, and the queen can no longer take because now the queen gets at the back rank. So this is a useful resource to defend this knight. Although bishop could take the knight, which I kind of missed. Although there's a fork after that. So this is a very deep line. And both players now, with about 10 seconds left on the clock. Yep, there's the b5 fork. And then pawn takes is also supported by the bishop. So the bishop takes. So that's 2 pawns. This queen has to protect this square from this queen. So now we're threatening rook back rank. This pawn push, I don't know if this is safe. The queen's coming in now. Rook here with a fork, but queen check. Oh! Queen takes rook there. Oh, because the bishop was pinning the knight. What a smooth tactic. That's game over. Yeah, that's checkmate. Man. Okay, wow. That was a very crazy game. Okay, Bubachik off now, 2-0. Excuse me, I need some water. Man. Let's look at the next game here. Okay, so this is Oprah. This is the board 1 of Mizzou. This is their first game of the day of the season, playing board 3 of MIT. So let's stick with this game now. Zemestiny had a really good game in the previous round. And he only has 34 seconds here. Grigory is up a point of material, which is always nice. Now this knight can move with a discovery attack, is what I'm seeing. So we could potentially see the knight hop in with an attack on the bishop. Ten seconds. Finally plays h6, hitting the bishop. Bishop takes the knight. Bishop takes, hitting the rook. Rook moves to d1, getting off that diagonal. So this is a strong bishop because white doesn't have a dark square bishop, but this pawn structure is not very pleasant. Oh, is that a hanging piece now? The pawn was pinned by the rook. Rook d1 came with a strong threat. So now white is up a knight, hitting this pawn. King steps aside. Active rook, though, hitting this knight back. Knight centralized on d4. This is a passed pawn. Knight takes here with a fork. Yeah, this is falling apart. Oh, that's with check, so the pin doesn't work. And Zemestiny resigns. Opening Grigory with his first point of the day. First point of the season. He's gonna get a lot more where that comes from, I'm sure. Thank you guys for the follows. Welcome. All right. Let's see what's going on here. That's a strong check. Active queen. But this king is not safe. These rooks are sidelined big time. And looks like this bishop's going to be a goner as well. Literally every piece of white. Okay, rook comes back to defend. So now the queen can step in to lend some support. Raja with 40 seconds to 20 of July's 2 minutes. So Nguyen Lee trying to get the first point for Mizzou. Yeah, this bishop's still a gunner. You trade queens here, and there it goes. So look at these rooks. I mean, you can take everything. These rooks will never be able to play. Anytime you try to centralize, you're cutting your king off of squares that are needed, and there's going to be a ton of checks from these rooks. So how to play as black here, it seems impossible. But yeah, if you take this, trying to go after that, you're getting back rank mated. So looks like white should be able to win this. It's just a matter of converting. I mean, you could take that if you want. And they do. So now that the rook is lifted off the 7th, black could potentially go after this. But the pawn advantage is also pretty heavy, and white could try to trade off rooks at that point. So instead we see rook here. Now we could go this way and try to take this, which is also threatening mate. We could also just go back to the 7th and get behind the pawn. Instead, opting for g3. I like it a lot, just defending the g2 pawn. Here, rook attacking, defending, makes a lot of sense. The king could step over if they want. Instead, just opting to go back this way. This is going to be very difficult to defend, especially if you take this. Oh, yeah. I don't think you could have taken that because now rook a7. There's a check, yes. Okay, king here, rook here. You can block like that. Okay, king here, preventing the block. Very smart. Very smart. Yeah, and that's resignation. So, MIT gets a point here with 20 of July. Very active rooks. First point on the board. Now, this is each player plays each other player from the other team. So 4 players a team, which gives you a total of 16 games played. So first team to 8.5 wins. And Mizzou's already at 5. So, and also MIT is missing a board, which is at least 4 points forfeited right there, which is kind of unfortunate. But I think Mizzou isn't worried about that. They're just focused on playing their best chess, and they're doing pretty good so far. Only one hiccup there, but a really good game played by 20th of July is Nguyen Lee from MIT. Getting the first point for MIT. Here we got Antipov versus Norman. And okay, Raja versus Zamestany has started. So all three players are playing. Here, black's in a bit of a think, and they finally grab that pawn on e5. So this bishop is hanging. If this bishop were to move, you could take here. But then there's potentially bishop takes with check. So first, f4. Attacking the bishop. Now, this is a mate threat, so we either have to move this pawn or we have to take the knight. And if we move the pawn, you're going to see a sacrifice. Okay, yeah, that was definitely foreseeable. I saw that one coming. So now black kind of has to take back, no? No, okay, they're going here, which is really crazy. The knight is pinned, so the knight cannot take that. Okay. Can we see bishop takes here, and then we'll see bishop takes back, defending the mate. And if you save the bishop, you lose the rook. But what about rook lift? Now, that's kind of crazy too. But bishop takes and knight takes. I don't know. Black is playing with fire here after playing h5. I think I would have probably taken that knight because I'd be too worried about the bishop sacrifice. But black plays bishop e4. And now we see f5. Leaving the bishop hanging. Attacking the bishop now with the queen. But then, that would drop the knight. So it would be a trade. But I think most importantly, white is just trying to open up black's king side like a can here. Can black take this? I don't know. I think if bishop takes, just the rook is gonna take immediately. That would be my opinion. Because after pawn takes, then bishop takes with check. If you take back, okay, that would defend, but you could just play bishop here, and that's gonna be basically unstoppable. Because now both the knight and the bishop are controlling h7, so taking the knight then wouldn't help you. So MIT looking to get maybe a second point. White definitely with the initiative here. Can we take this now? Bishop takes knight, queen takes, pawn takes. It's very scary, but also very possible. Black with only a minute now on the clock. And they take the knight. Will the queen take which bishop? Okay, takes here, which pins the pawn. But now this pawn takes. That's also very scary. Wow. Bishop just takes on c2. Bishop takes. If we take, the queen takes, and that's at least a draw. Okay, queen back. Now there are discoveries, but where's the mate? That is a check. I missed that. And now rook lift. So black is up in exchange. No, up a whole rook for a pawn. And white is just looking for something, but it's not there. Rook lift covering queen h6 in a lot of lines if the bishop were to come back. Man, black under time pressure, playing very smoothly, very calmly under pressure. But they're finding good moves, and they're up a rook. So white's attack dwindling now. And it's hard to find anything, really. Okay, really quickly, I want to look at 20 of July versus Operin. I noticed 20 of July has less than 30 seconds. Black can't castle, so the king will be stuck in the middle of the board. Both sides fighting in the center. We can take this, and then this maybe. Okay, going back here, what did white move? What happened here? So rook lifts, queen takes the pawn, and then black takes the bishop. Now, the pawn pushes through, threatening checkmate. But the rook just simply takes, and there goes the queen. Check, and the bishop takes, and there's resignation. So Antipov wins that one, despite the heavy attack from white. Let's go back to 20th of July. So he's got less than 10 seconds on the clock. It's going to be very hard to defend this. Let me give Antipov his point. So Mizzou's at 6, but you can add 4 basically. I think they've clinched the win. When Lee kicking this rook back, rook here offering queen trade, saying if you take my queen, then okay. Yeah, that was a little tricky, but simply just taking the rook, and white is all out of tricks. But yeah, if you take the queen for free, you lose the king. So probably not a good trade. And black just simply takes the rook. So that's a point for Operin again. Here we got Zamestiny versus Raja. Raja's up a point in material. A pawn to be exact. You have a 3-on-2 majority here on the queen side. Very centralized knight. Hitting this, which is hit twice. Also blocks this d file. And yeah, we have opposite color bishops. So being on the light squares is very useful for white's coordination. This knight is the only thing that could contest this knight. But it's going to take a couple moves in order to do that. And I don't think black has a couple moves. They have to address this first and foremost with either a rook move or a bishop move or a counter threat. But I don't see any. So yeah, and the knight could come here, which threatens the fork, which is under control by the bishop. So it's not looking too good for black. And white also has a dominating time advantage. Black now going to half a minute on their clock, trying to find some defense for this bishop. and for the fork that's gonna come. Bishop here, hits the rook, but yeah, 3 seconds. Bishop to g5, knight follows through with c7 immediately. Black here, yeah, that's a fork. Take your pick. I mean, everything's free. That's a counter fork. But okay, both rooks are defended by the bishop. So only 4 seconds for Zemestiny. Deciding, See, Raja, they don't have to force anything. They don't have to force. They're in a good position. They can take their time here. Probably a lot of different ways they can go about this. Okay, taking on g5, giving up this, taking here, giving up the rook, and now bishop takes. So that's 2 pieces for 1 rook. So white should be favored. Now the knight is on the side of the board, but it's going to be difficult for this rook to cut it off. Black, not a lot of time, but they do have a 2-on-1 majority. So pawn here gives up the pawn, but okay, no time. Yeah, it's messy, no time there. Raja with the point. And I believe this is the final round. We have Oprah versus Norman. Pretty solid development for both sides. White's got the centralized rooks. Kind of a beat up queenside pawn structure, but a very healthy kingside. Meanwhile, black has the center with the pawns. Only 2 pawns in front of the king. Let's take a look at Antipov's game against 20 of July. Okay, so that looked like a pawn sacrifice to open up the G file. So hitting the bishop, and we might even see a sacrifice on h5. So 20 of July is up 2 pawns, but in this opposite side castles game, it's all about initiative. So white is definitely taking that here with the open G and H files with the rooks. So it looks like they sacrificed the H pawn, sacrificed the G pawn, and now Win Lee here has to decide how they want to protect the bishop. And he's at a minute and a half. Meanwhile, Antipov only having used a minute on their clock out of the 5 that he started with. You have to ask yourself, after a rook takes, pawn takes, bishop here, how are you defending this guy? Open G file is very deadly. And if you didn't take the pawn, well, if you move the knight, then the queen swings over, and that open H file is also not too pleasant to deal with. Not to mention that that pawn can then push through and kick out this knight again, who's defending H7, which is mate in a lot of lines. So yeah, real tough spot for Nguyen. Antipov probably pretty pleased with the position despite being down the 2 pawns. So definitely worth the material investment for this kind of activity. And even if not for the activity, definitely for the time advantage. It's going to be near impossible to defend with only 20 seconds left. And resignation, not even making a move. Okay, that was pretty brutal. Oh, here we had a very quick point from Grigory. So let's check out this tactic here. Looks like black here giving up an exchange, but going for a very active queen. Queen check, rook to f1, queen takes the pawn, and now queen takes on f7 is just mate. After rook takes, you have rook d8 check. There's a queen block, rook takes, then rook block, and then take your pick, whichever rook to take with, and that's mate. So black played aggressively, but missed the mate at the end. All right, this is what seems to be the last game. Bubachik versus Zamestany. Zamestany's played some good games today, but hasn't gotten a point. MIT's only point has come from Nguyen Lee, I believe, so far. So I think Grigory got a point there, right? And then so did, was that Antipov as well? I think. I feel like I might be missing a game. Or no. Did Nguyen Lee win against Raja? Probably. Okay, so it's Zamestany versus Bubachik here. What is going on? Okay, so queens are off. Both sides with the bishop pair. We've got this very advanced f pawn, and the knight is trying to help support the push, ruining the pawn structure of black. I like this bishop a lot, especially when you compare it to its counterpiece. This bishop on h7 is not too pleased. Black does have a time advantage, but they are thinking here, so they could give the time back. Okay, going for bishop trade, pinning this bishop to the king, forcing the bishops off. After bishop takes, knight takes, hits this bishop, dislodging it from this beautiful outpost, kind of forcing the bishop back. And after the pawn push, would open up the ice for our bishop. So white does decide to trade here, and now this bishop's going to have to decide. Well, the decision's pretty easy. Bishop c2 kind of seems necessary. And now the rook can come with tempo, very active, and that's exactly what happens. So now rook here, defending the bishop, offering a rook trade. Now we can double up on the d file. So I really like how black has played this. I'm not sure if bishop takes was forced. It is possible you could have maintained the tension there and defend your bishop some way, but that would be pretty awkward, probably. as we would probably see some rook activity in the center. So white did just simply trade off. Now the threat is to take, lift this rook, and then that's actually a back rank. The flight square is occupied by the bishop. So the king moves, guarding e8, making sure there's no funny back rank business, and maintaining this tension here. Not looking to trade off rooks just yet. Okay, so white continuing with the pawn storm. Just defending this pawn, but also perhaps building something here. We might see some more pawn pushes in the future. This poor bishop, this is the worst piece on the board. But black plays f6, preventing g5, but also opening up this new path for the bishop. Now, the knight immediately is looking at these light squares. Black trades off both rooks. The rook check forced the rook to block to protect the bishop. And now black wants to enter this endgame here, activating the king towards the center. White does likewise. Bishop here to box out the knight. Expecting this. The kings come together. They meet up in the middle on the d file, and now they're going to have to find some moves for their pieces and their pawns. It looks like this could end up just being a draw. It seems like a very equal position. Now the knight is kicked. The knight could find a very lovely home on e5 with pressure on g4. Seems very reasonable. Yep, that's exactly what happens. If you take, then we take. Pawn here, defending this. There's a check. There's also another outpost square on c4. Bubachik has a time advantage, so they could find anything. Zemestny offering a draw. Bubachik declines, says, no, let's play on. Although, you know, the match point is already clinched. At this point, they're just playing chess. They're going for the whole point. And I respect it. So white's going to probably bring the king back to d4, which would, no? Okay. Well, you know, you could always try to go for repetition, but white instead improves the bishop. So just because it's an equal position doesn't mean it's a drawn position. Especially when Zemestny is low on the clock. Time pressure can make a fool of us all. So I like c5 a lot. The king did not come back to d4, and black makes a pawn break. c5, saying if you take, you're going to help out my king position. So here's a check, and then king up, attacking the knight, hanging this pawn. So the knight has to move, and the knight goes back. There's another check, but the king will attack the knight. And if we take, then this pawn becomes pretty weak after the knight gets to d4. But yeah, okay, knight comes back here defending this. I was anticipating bishop here, which happens now only after the bishop attacks this base point. So now the knight has to move. And I like the sequence because the knight was trying to come to d4, but black held off on this capture for as long as possible. It's possible white could have taken before they played bishop c6. So after this capture, the knight could come in here, which puts pressure on this pawn. I'm just choosing them as they're happening. Also, did you get my my message? I think MIT was missing some players, which is unfortunate. Okay, so white takes. This pawn is just gonna hang. But we're looking for this fork. So gives up the bishop. Bishop takes. We lose this pawn. But now the knight is kind of trapped in here, right? This bishop is covering everything. Although knight here can be very timely, right? Because if you take, you're going to lose this promotion. So the king's going after these pawns, and seems like they'll be successful. But now the king comes over to defend this, and kind of box this king out. So the king steps up this way. This pawn, we probably have to go here, but the knight here will pick up this pawn, which won't be defended. So what on earth is happening? I think white is just winning. Because, I mean, look at the kings now. Yeah. Okay, knight defends that, which is very convenient. But now how do you defend this? You can take this now, but now knight takes. And now this pawn is going to run all the way home. So it looks like Zemestny's going to take this one after offering a draw. Yeah, this should be a win. Bishop here, pawn push, bishop takes, knight takes. Yeah, wow. Okay, well, Zemestny gets the second point for MIT, but MIT only takes 2 points today. Mizzou getting 14 points. So solid performance from Mizzou. They're gonna get the win here, and yeah, they're probably looking forward to their next match next week.